Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Thursday Night Live with your host, Jacob Kirkbride, here on SAFC Fan TV. An end of season look back tonight here on SAFC Fan TV. Joining me on the show tonight, we've got the Mad Mistake. Terry, how are you doing, mate?
Aye, not too bad. Getting better. I've had a bit of man flu, just starting to get over it now. So, yeah, happy days.
Happy days indeed. Also joining us tonight, the man who loves pint sport for him on an away day, Jack Shields. Jack, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. Had time to sort of get over the football and reflect on it, and looking forward to a good hour talking about Sunderland. It'll be more positive than negative this next hour, I think. So hopefully that'll cheer people up a little bit.
Yeah, it just wasn't to be, sadly, this season, but still a great season to look back on. And finally completing the lineup tonight, we have got Wayne Duran. Wayne, how's your day been, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, Jacob. Another long day at work, but another day closer to the weekend, and it's always good speaking for the next hour to talk about our.
Just a shame we're not planning our beverages down in Trafalgar Square on Friday evening, but it just wasn't to be, unfortunately. Just one of those seasons, but still a tremendous season to look back on regardless. We'll go through some iconic awards tonight from each and every one of you. Also, don't forget the live chat is open tonight for you to throw in your suggestions of also the best player, best goal, funniest moment, also your best away day as well. Let us know in the comments below, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel, SAFC Fan TV. Hit the subscribe button, also hit the thumbs up button. We always try to get to 100 likes on each video, so if you could do that, it would be very much appreciated. So we're going to kick things off with the playoff tie against Luton Town, which unfortunately was the second leg. It was our undoing. We'll come to the second leg a little bit later on, but we're going to start with the first leg at the Stadium of Light. It was a 2-1 win for Sunderland that evening. Before we come to you, Terry, first glance of the live chat tonight. Las Palmas Mackham, evening lads, FTM, Mick Griffiths. Good evening, one and all. Hope yous are all well. CONRAD Tank, evening all. Colin Major, hi lads. Are we going to do what are we going to do without SAFC and football? Mackham 1973, been a good season, played some great football. Terry, we'll come to you. The first leg, finishing the 2-1 win for Sunderland in the end. What was your thoughts going into the game, and how would you assess the performance overall? I think the atmosphere definitely made it just a tremendous day to look back on. You know, we'd got 50% of the job done with the win that night. Sadly, we couldn't complete the other 50% down at Kenilworth Road. We'll come on to that later on in the show. But yeah, 2-1 win, a spectacular free kick from Amad Diallo in the first half that drew level, and then a winning header from Trey Hume in the second half of the game. How would you assess the performance, Terry?
Exactly what you just said there. I mean, I thought we started off very positive for the first 5 minutes. Then we obviously let a goal in with the first corner of the game. And beforehand, I was kind of hoping for a draw. When they scored, I thought, oh, here we go. It's probably going to win 2 or 3-0 now. But the lads bounced back really well. And I thought, like, by the time Ahmad got that goal, from then onwards, it was just all Sunderland. Second half, we came out, dominated the whole of the match, got the winning goal with Trey Hume. And it's unfortunate we couldn't put 2 or 3 or 4 past them, actually, and got more of a cushion of a lead for the second leg. That was the best second half performance I've seen all season from Sunderland. It was probably one of the best performances I've seen in Sunderland at the Stadium of Light, because a makeshift defence, 3 small players in defence, no centre-backs, no Ballard, no Bard, no Alessi. So, you know, you're missing the majority of your defenders. So against a big, strong, physical side like Luton, who tried to break up the play every time they had the opportunity, a 2-1 win was good. It was a good result. I said we could have won by more, and I came out of the game feeling really positive.
Indeed. And then obviously we'll stay with you, Terry, the second leg, as we've touched upon that 2-1 win in the previous show. The main talking point is obviously going to be that second leg that undo us. I personally felt Luton Town, tactically, they were spot on in the night, pumped a lot of balls into the box. We couldn't cope with their physicality of their front line, a lack of height on a defensive point of view. I would say undone us on the night. Their tactics were spot on. Their manager, Rob Edwards, knew our weaknesses and he exploited them, him and his side, to great effect. It was just one of those evenings, unfortunately. Second leg, obviously, on a defensive point of view, we had Alessi back in the squad. He only made the bench. We didn't see him until the second half. And yeah, it was an unchanged team, Terry, from what we put out in the first leg at the Stadium of Light. The performance overall, would you say that Tony Mowbray, looking back, could he have done anything differently going into the start of the game, or would you say that was the best he could have hoped for? You know, putting out the same starting 11, which would have been full of confidence to go out and get the job done.
To be fair, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? He's probably stuck by the same team that did so well a couple of days beforehand. But, you know, like Pritchard was touch and go, whether he could start the game on the away leg. And we all know you can't really play a full match. So playing them back-to-back so close, 2 days rest. I thought Pritchard didn't have a very good particular game. He didn't look very fit to me, to be honest. I think he just stood by the same side that got the victory. Could have brought Alessi in. To be fair, we needed some height in the defence. It was there to be seen straight away from the first corner, almost exactly the same as it was in the home leg. The scored from the corner. First corner came in the box, no height. They got the deflection, and the second ball they won and put the ball in the back of the net. And just the same vein again. They were just pumping balls and just kept on just chucking the balls into Sunderland's end. It's just smaller pitches, a tight pitch. It's more intimidating ground, and it was always going to suit them. And we couldn't get the ball down. We couldn't play the football that we like to play on a bigger pitch. And they did the homework, they had the intensity. And to be fair, our lads just looked tired. You know, it was game too much. It's disappointing at the same time. We've had such a good season with having all those injuries and not having a striker and having obviously no defenders. So we did really. I thought we did well just to keep it at 2-0. But I would have thought, and like I say, in hindsight, I wanted to start the other defender, forgetting his name now, the lad from Everton. I wanted to probably start him, but obviously he mustn't be ready. If Mowbray's not happy with him, he mustn't be ready. And whether he's good enough to stay at the club next season is another thing. So overall, very disappointing night. We didn't really put up much of a fight in the second half. Again, Luton just continued to dominate it. There was one chance of a penalty we could have had, but apart from that, we didn't have much of a sniff.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. You know, particularly the second half, I thought Luton had the majority of the work done on the night with that first 45-minute performance. The first goal, corner came in, Adebayo at the back made Trey Hume and Luke O'Nine's evening an absolute nightmare. Obviously, his physical presence helped. It was Ozzo who got the first goal after 10 minutes, and then Tom Lockyer, who I think's their captain, I believe, you know, a glancing header after a great cross came in on the right-hand side. It was the second one. And I think we just had that feeling where I remember watching it on the pub on the night that we weren't going to break this team down in the second half. It was the worst possible outcome we could have gave them for the first 45 minutes of that game. And it was, you know, up against 3 banks of 4. And I must say that you've got to give them credit. They defended very well in the second half of the game. We struggled even with the substitutions we brought on the night. We had a lack of substitutions really on an attacking point of view. We may have potentially could have used Lahaji, but in terms of the ones we did bring on, Mishu and Abdul-Jabbar, we tried to add more creativity, move the ball quicker in the middle of the park. But yeah, it just wasn't to be. Their midfield, Nakamba, who personally I think was lucky to even be playing the game, considering he should have been sent off in the first leg. Ruddock, Clark as well, you know, shut them out completely for the second 45 minutes. So overall, you got to hold your hands up. Good performance for Luton in the end, and they're into the final against Coventry.
Better team won, Jacob. Better team won.
Yeah, better team won, mate. Better team won. Jack, we'll come on to you now. Obviously, just a quick one with that first leg. Your overall assessment of that, just that day as a general, a great day for all Sunderland fans. But then what was the feeling? Because you went down, didn't you, to Kenilworth Road on that Tuesday? What was the feeling going down on the coach on the day? Were you confident, or did you think that this is nowhere near done? But we'll start with the first leg overall. What was your feelings coming out of it?
Yeah, well, it was a fantastic day, wasn't it? The sun was shining. Everyone was in great spirits. It was a late kickoff, which helped everybody get a couple of hours on the beverages, which always helps, doesn't it? Helps your spirits. Not that we need much of an excuse to drink as Sunderland supporters. They drive you to drink sometimes, but no, everything was going well. And then first 15 minutes, the sucker punch, they get the goal from the corner. As we all know, they're going to be threatening. But it was excellent after that. I thought, we started to get a foothold in the game after their goal. What could have been a really difficult afternoon for us, we actually got on top, got the crowd behind us. Crucial equaliser, and it was a deserved equaliser from Diallo with a free kick. And then obviously we battered them in the second half, really, didn't we? They couldn't get near us. They were resorted to tactical fouls, which the referee was very soft on the day. I felt we certainly could have given Luton players more bookings, and you touched on Nakamba. Definite red there for me. Took him out when he was it a 2 yellow or was he on a red? I can't remember. I just remember being a couple of weeks ago now. My memory's going a little bit, but I do remember being incensed. But we got the goal, and as Terry's touched on, really, we come away from the game winning 2-1 and thinking that should have been a 3-1 probably. And I think had that gone to 3-1, we would have been a lot more confident going into the second leg. So we knew we had the advantage, but it was a narrow advantage. And you couldn't get two more contrasting games, really, could you? Comparing the home leg to the away leg. Big pitch, our crowd behind us in the home leg. Second leg was difficult. We went down there. To be honest, we weren't expecting anything, I would say, Jacob. We were more travelling in hope. We knew that there was a chance that I felt we would score. I got it wrong because we tend to score away from home. I thought we would score, but I thought if we're going to go out, we'd probably lose 3-1 or 4-1 or something like that, and that would be the way that it was done. But the Luton game, I thought we tried to get the game going. We tried to get our style of play implemented on the game, but we just never really got going. Luton made it their type of game, didn't they? They made it a physical game. They made it an aerial game. They pressed us high up. They disrupted us when we were on the ball. It's a tight pitch, as Terry's touched on. The crowd are right on top of you. The crowd were in the game, making it even hostile. Amad Diallo got a punch in the chest, and I mean, it was wrong that happened, but it's just symbolic of an atmosphere that was hostile and difficult, and it was like that all the way down. You know what I mean? All the way in the crowd, it was just a really partisan atmosphere, and you felt like you couldn't really get into the game as a fan because your team weren't playing well, and there wasn't that many of us down there. Normally, our fans outnumber them and outsing them, but it just wasn't to be. And in terms of the game, I just felt like they kept putting balls into the box, and we were vulnerable practically every time the ball came near our aerially in our box, whether it was a free kick or a throw-in or a corner. And yeah, it was tough. We managed to take the last couple of minutes, but we never really looked like scoring, did we, in the whole 90 minutes? Let's be honest. Probably could have had a penalty, which might have changed things, but it was just Luton's night. Luton deserved it, probably shaded it over the 2 legs. It was just a really tough night to take because you don't mind teams playing better football than you, but when a team wins like that, it's sometimes hard to take. But they played to the strengths. There's nothing against that. It was a great season for us overall, and yeah, we just got to take it on the chin.
Yeah, but before we go to the comments in a moment, Jack, what would you say we were missing, and what could we have done differently second half of that game to really try and break Luton down on the night?
Nothing really. I mean, we've only the sad thing about us is we've only really got one style of play at the minute with no central striker. We haven't got the number 9. I mentioned it before we come on. If we had Ross Stewart, we might have been able to knock the odd ball into the channels and in behind, get Ross Stewart challenging for it and push us up the pitch. If that got us up the pitch a little bit, we might have been able to get our technical players on the ball a little bit more, but we couldn't do that. I really don't know what else we could have done. Perhaps play Alessi from the start. I don't know if that would have made a difference if Alessi's in there rather than coming off the bench. I think he might have made a bit more of an impact in the first half. Might have got his head on one of the corners that we conceded the goal from. There wasn't a great deal more we could do. It was sad to see us lose that way because we all knew that was going to be the way that Luton played. But as Tony Mowbray touched on it, we just couldn't stop it. We couldn't do anything. I'm struggling for an answer. What else we could have done? Maybe keep the ball a little bit better. But I think you've got to give credit to Luton for pressing us and harrying us when we're on the ball because they never let us settle for 1 minute. They never let us get on the ball and play any sort of decent passes and get in our rhythm, and fair play to them.
Yeah. Like I said before, you've got to hold your hands up. It wasn't to be, but hopefully with what we were missing, I know injuries have undone us a bit, particularly in the second half of the season. We can address the weaknesses that were in the squad available towards the end of the season, and hopefully bring in the right players during the summer with the gaps that we need filling. Wayne, before we come on to the Luton tie with you. A glance at the live chat. The Bristolian Mackham has pointed out we're linked with a new Chilean winger. We're going after turns. We are going after turns into an amazing striker on. Likes playing with him on FIFA, apparently, according to the Bristolian Mackham. It'd be interesting to see if he gives a name drop on that one. Elliot Alderson, anyone else more disappointed that the season's over rather than us not making Wembley? Absolutely, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. Dave and Sal Lam. Good day, lads, from Brisbane. Brisbane. I think he's spelled it wrong there. I'm presuming he's meaning Australia. Brisbane, Australia. Give Barnsley a shout out. Versus Sheffield Wednesday. Yes, they're in the League One playoff final. I believe it's on Bank Holiday Monday. So good luck to Barnsley in the final. That's for you, Dave. That shout out. Mick Griffiths, to be fair, we didn't really look like scoring in the second half. Still, let's hope we can get on a step further next season. Peter Harvey to all Mackhams, keep safe and healthy. How are the lads? David Joblin. Coventry City 5, Luton Town 1. See you next season, Luton. So clearly he thinks it's going to be a bit of a battering Luton will receive at Wembley on the day, unfortunately. Sorry to all Luton fans who are watching tonight. KTM, what's the crack with Ross Stewart? I'm not sure if there's any more developments on the Bristolian Mackham. Apparently, we're linked with a Chilean winger called Alexander Aravina, according to the Bristolian Mackham there. Any more on that, we should bring you in later shows on SAFC Fan TV. Wayne, Luton Town, mate. Obviously, we'll come to you on the first leg. Firstly, all happy smiles coming out of the Stadium of Light that day. The atmosphere intimidating, made the hairs on the back of your neck stand before kickoff, and yeah, just an overall perfect performance. How did you assess that? What was your confidence like coming out of the ground that day, knowing that we were potentially going to take that sort of rhythm down to Luton? We'll try to take that sort of rhythm in our performance on the pitch down to Luton Town on Tuesday. Well,
going into the game, I would have been quite happy with the point. I was quite confident our away form, if we could have gotten the draw in the first leg, I think we're confident to beat anybody away from home, but obviously didn't turn out that way. But to get the 2-1 win, like the lads have touched on, it could have been and should have been more. They should have been down to 10 men. They just bullied us or tried to bully us for the full game. Referee, soft, let them get away with it. So that was their tactics for the whole of the game, really. And we always knew that the lack of height in the two centre halves was going to come back and bite us on the arse at some point, and it was just unfortunate that it was the game in these two games. They exploited our weaknesses very well. When the first goal went in, you thought, oh, here we go. But we battled back. It was a great once we got the equaliser. There was only one team going to win, really. And like you say, it was just a bit disappointing that we didn't get the third goal. Like Jack's already touched on, if we'd gone down there with a 2-goal lead, would have probably hung on. But conceding the early goal down there as well kind of set the same for the night. And it was a long all night, and like you've already said, it was the better team won on the night. And if I'm honest, it could have been 5 or 6. I think they had possibly 2 or 3 cleared off the line in the second leg, and I think Patterson's made 2 or 3 fantastic saves as well. So, 2 different games. We battered in the first game. They've battered us the second game, but got the 2 goals. We couldn't get one, which is not like us. I think we'd scored in the previous 20 odd games. I think it was Burnley, wasn't the last game that we hadn't scored. So, or there was only Burnley who stopped us from scoring in 20 or 30 odd games. So I was always confident we'd go down there and get a goal, but it just wasn't to be. Like I said, they put on a professional performance. It's an awful place to play, a tight ground, and on the night, they got the win and thoroughly deserved, I thought. But it was just unfortunate. But like I say, a better team won on the night.
Yeah, would you say it was a case of we ran out of steam and didn't know how to cope with their tactical awareness of the game on the night? If every corner they put in the second half, I think it came close. It looked like they were going to score over and over again. I think, like you mentioned, second half, I think Alessi, when he came on, he had one cleared off the line. But one moment I'll raise with you, actually, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this to you guys. It's just popped into my head now. The handball in the first 10 minutes of the game. Obviously, Jack, you probably weren't aware of it until you saw the replay going back home. I think it was in the first. I'm not sure it was after they got the first one or just before. A corner came into the box. I think it was Ekwa's header, saved by the keeper. But I think the ball. Some are saying, his hand, the geezer's arm was in an unnatural position for it to be given as handball. But you've seen them given, haven't you, Wayne? What was your thoughts on that decision?
I think if it's in the final, where VAR is, if it's in the Prem, you get it as a penalty because his arm is away from his body. Yes, it's probably, hit him quite fast, but even so in the Premier League, if your arm's away from your body straight away, they'll give it as a penalty. So if we'd had VAR, 100% would have gotten a penalty for that. I'm surprised I didn't see it because I still thought it was a penalty anyway without the VAR. You see his arm was quite far away from his body when it struck him. So, for me, it was a penalty and we should have had that. But sometimes you get them, sometimes you did in the Championship, as we know. But I think he was a Premier League referee, wasn't he? On the second leg, he was a experienced. But we know these Premier League referees now tend to leave all the calls up to VAR anyway. So probably why he didn't call it on the night. So for me, it was a definite penalty.
Yeah, it's just one of those decisions. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. For me personally, I think to give that, considering his arm being in an unnatural position, I can understand why the referee didn't necessarily give it on the evening. But then again, you could look back at the referee performance in the first leg. Should he have sent the camera off for 3 bookable challenges, despite him being on a yellow for the majority of the game? We'll just never know. Before we go on to some end of season awards here tonight, live on SAFC Fan TV, another glance at the live chat. Ian Barron, good evening, everyone. Hope you are well. It's your favourite Darlington FC fan back. Shout out to Darlington FC, by the way. Another great club in the northeast of England. Colin Major, apparently that Chilean is said to be full of beans. 50-50 whether people rate. You can just never tell with foreign players that come to Sunderland these days. Who would have predicted the likes of Pierre Ekwa and Abdullah Bar having key performances and playing key roles this season? You just never know. 513 Edge, I believe your name is. Sorry if I've got that wrong. When I'm watching Ekwa play, it reminds me of Paul Pogba, both physically strong, technically gifted, good at dictating the tempo, and can switch the play. Kyle Don, another fantastic Sunderland YouTuber. Evening, lads. And CONRAD Tank Packard, hopefully not, but with Leeds, Leicester and Southampton probably going down, and with Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday coming up from League One, the Championship will be really tough next season. I've got to agree with that one, mate. So end of season awards time here. It's just a shame the season, it feels like it's flowing by so quickly, hasn't it? 1 minute was that Coventry City game back in the end of July last year. Next thing, it was the Luton Town second leg. It's just a shame that this extremely talented group of players could have had that one extra game at the end. But yeah, just wasn't to be. But we move on from it. Sunderland till we die. Hopefully we can make more additions to this brilliant talented squad we've got on the books at the minute. Hopefully we can keep some of the talented players we've got as well. But yeah, best player. Terry, we'll start with you, mates. I'm going to predict your nomination for this being a player that sadly it doesn't look like we are going to keep, based on his social media messages he's been firing off recently with him going back to his parent club. He was on loan. But yeah, Terry, I'll start with you. Your best player of the season and why?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have chose Edouard Michou. So that's so you completely got that one wrong straight away. Best player of the season. There's lots of different people. You got like said Danny Bart in defence, who's been solid for the majority of the season. You got Anthony Patterson, never missed a minute in the league campaign this season. Very close for being player of the season. You've got other players. Jack Clark, the most assists. He's got a lot of goals as well. And you got Luke O'Neill, Mr. Reliable, has done a good job this season as well. There's just a few candidates, but obviously, top goal scorer came into the side partway through the season. Obviously, on loan from Manchester United. Ahmad's been a breath of fresh air. Some of the goals he scored have been absolutely amazing. Got a hell of a left foot. And, that goal he scored against Preston was just reaction. It was just it was probably, for me, one of the best goals of the season. So I'm going to go player of the season. Even though Danny Barton had a fantastic season, he's very close between Danny Barton and Anthony Patterson for Sunderland players. I'll give it to a loaning in Ahmad.
That's exactly who I thought you'd say, Terry, mate. Amad Diallo. I couldn't agree more. I thought I'd get that out there now with my nomination for this award. Amad Diallo, what an unbelievable signing he's turned out to be. Considering when he first came in, he had to earn his place in that side. And he had doubters, I won't lie. When the signing was first made, I think people talked about him struggling to make an impact on loan at Rangers last season. But for what he's done, some of the quality of the goals he scored this year. Look at Preston on the last day. His brilliantly struck free kick against Luton in the first leg of the playoffs. That brilliant wand of a left foot coming to good use away at Birmingham on that Friday night. Just so many great Ahmad memories to pick out from, and sadly we won't. Well, who knows? Sunderland fans are knowing on away days and at home about singing songs about former ex-players, and I think his song will be sung about for a long, long time. Definitely smacking the metal barriers, singing Diallo. A memory that will stay with me forever. I think that started back in February at home to Reading. That was, but Amad Diallo, my player of the season, fans' favourite, fantastic player with a bright, bright future ahead of him. I should put that out there now. Jack. Before we come to you on the live chat, Emma Hansen, I'm a member of SAFC Fan TV. For me, the player of the season, she's gone with Dan Ballard or Luke O'Neill. They have just showed their passion and their worth for me. Mick Griffiths has also thrown in with Luke O'Neill or Anthony Patterson. Also, I should say Anthony Patterson, congratulations to him on his England under-21 call-up with the squad been announced this week. But Jack, we'll come on to you, mate. Who's your player of the season and why, and what are your top memories of the player you've chosen?
Amad Diallo will be probably my pick. I think he's lit up the season, hasn't he? He's provided some magical moments. Some of the goals that he scored, he scored 3 or 4 absolute worldies. He could probably have a goal of the season competition on his own. Let's be honest, Amad Diallo, you could pick out 3, 4, 5 of several superb goals that he scored. But not just the goals he scored, the impact he's had. I think he brings a star quality to our team, in assists, his energy that he brings, and he's a real fan favourite. And we always say at Sunderland, try and not get too attached to loan players, because in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, we have had quite a lot of loan players that have come to the club, done really, really well, and then we've ended up being a little bit disappointed when we haven't signed them permanently. And there's obviously very little to no chance of us signing Amad Diallo permanently. So it's going to be probably disappointing when he does, when he goes back to Man United. I think personally they'll let him out again to a Premier League team on loan. If we'd gone up, if we won the playoffs, there might have been an option there where he could have signed again next season. I think if you asked him personally, he probably would sign for us again. He probably loves it. He looks like he loves it here. Settled environment. He's under a manager that's good with young players. He's playing well. The fans love him. It would be great. If you asked him personally, he probably would say, I'll sign for Sunderland again next year, even though they're on the Championship. But I think Man United will probably want his development at a probably bottom half Premier League team to be playing regularly. So, I would give it to him, but he's the obvious one. But there are a lot of honourable mentions as well. I think Anthony Patterson's one that's done really, really well as a young goalkeeper who have played every minute in the Championship this season. Had some standout performances, and I think he will only go on and get better and better the more he plays. Goalkeepers tend to peak a little bit later in the career, so he's had a great season. Obviously, England under-21 call-up. Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts have been fantastic, the pair of them. Goals and assists, carving open defences. Dan Ballard and Danny Bath were excellent. Shame they got injured towards the end of the season. There's been quite a few noteworthy performances across the whole season. Special mention was the ones I've said, but I would give it Amad Diallo because I think he's been fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. Wayne, before we come on to you, there's been more suggestions for player of the season, like Jack Conrad, Tank, player of the season, Patterson or Clark. Don't mention it to me. 513 Edge. What about Jan Envia? Don't remind me. Honestly, he was a real favourite of mine that season we had on loan under Allardyce. Not sure why his name's been mentioned, but it's just heartbreaking we didn't manage to get him back, but it is what it is. Wayne, mate, who's your player of the season for 2022-23 and why?
Yeah, like the lads have already mentioned, Ahmad's obviously going to be up there. I think if you ask any Sunderland fan, they'll probably give you Ahmad, but I'm going to go with Danny Batt, just because
he got it, didn't he, in the awards? Yeah.
Look at the defensive injuries that we've had, and everyone who's coming to be a part alongside him, he's kind of talking through all the games. They've all played well alongside him. So just for that, I'm going to give him that just for his leadership. Especially when Corey Evans got injured as well, he stood in as captain, so he's been doing kind of a dual job, if you like. Marshalling these young lads at the back, and then stepping to be captain. So yes, Ahmad's going to get all the applause, but for me, Danny Batt would be my player of the season. He was consistently good, all the way through until he got injured. But like Jack Clark as well, fantastic. I mean, I don't know whether you've watched all the goals that Sunderland AFC have put on YouTube. It's about half an hour long, shows every goal scored, and the amount of assists. You can say what Jack Clark, the involvement he's had in all of them, fantastic. So he's had a really, really good season as well. But for me, Danny Batt.
Yeah, Danny Batt. Yeah, I can completely understand. He's been a worry at the back this season, hasn't he? Particularly his partnership he had with Dan Ballard that progressed over the course of the season. I think Danny Batt, he's one of those players. I think when we brought him in, obviously considering one of his first few games was a disastrous 6-0 defeat away at Bolton back in League One, he's developed over time and he's allowed this football club definitely to get under his skin, like Kevin Ball said back in the day. A fantastic competitor. People off the pitch said apparently he's mad as nuts, according to some of the people in the squad, but that just shows his passion, to be honest. He's a player that really does care about this club, really takes it to heart. And yeah, if you listen to all the players, that they I think there was a video the club made about certain players in the squad. Each and every one of them gave Danny Batt a mention about just his passion in general. One of the best trainers at this club, and definitely someone that we should look to keep for the next season or two, because he could be a fantastic, leader and great part of that dressing room going forward if we're going to look to progress on the season that we've just had. Next award now. I thought I'd throw in young player, but I've switched it last minute to most improved player of the season. There's few candidates there. I've thought long and hard about this one. For me, I think based on him earning his way back into the starting 11 and being, a regular in the starting 11, I've got to go with Trey Hume. An unbelievable season he's had, considering we all thought he was going to be sent out on loan at the start of the campaign by Alex Neil. And Alex Neil, I don't think, gave him a sniff in those first few games of the season. It's only when Tony Mowbray came in that he saw something in him that thought, yeah, we can use this lad's talent to great effect, and he's earned his place in the side. But yeah, I'll start with you, Terry. Do you agree? Trey Hume, most improved player, but what would your award be for this one?
No, I don't agree. I think it's Joe Gelhardt. I think he's improved loads in the last couple of games.
Okay.
Good mention. It's definitely Trey Hume. Definitely Trey Hume. I thought Trey Hume.
Say whoever you want, mate. Say whoever you want.
I thought Trey Hume never had a sniff at the start of the season, to be honest. I thought he wouldn't. I thought he would go on loan. I thought he wouldn't get at the side, but he's worked his way into the side. And to be honest, he is one of the players actually missed off for player of the season. He's had absolutely a brilliant season. Only one thing he did wrong was give away that penalty against Bristol City. But apart from that, for me, he's been a solid stalwart. He's done everything. He puts the boot in. He's not afraid of a challenge. He'll kick 10 bags of shite out you. For a young lad, for a small physique, he gets stuck in. No, for me, I think he's never been injured. And since he got into the side, he's never been out of the side. And he's one of the names you put on the team sheet straight away, especially in defence, I thought. And he scored 2 goals as well. And he seems to be getting better and progressed as the season went on. And for me, going towards the back end of the season, it looks to me that he could even improve again. He could even make it in the Premier League. You just don't know, do you? So I think this lad has definitely got the world at his feet. I hope he can keep him for another season. And for the snip we bought him for, I mean, the owners must be laughing their backs off.
Yeah, completely, mate. It'll be interesting to know whether, I think he's had that good of a season, Trey Hume. Be interesting to know, whether clubs are sniffing around him at all, to be honest. I think, honestly, he's been that much of a key part of this team. Very talented as well, got pace, tracks back well. Sometimes, his defensive frailties, because he's still only a young lad. He's only improving. Think of what, he could be next season as well. Considering this is his first full season playing consistently, Trey Hume, it's just been a breath of fresh air and a joy to see. Jack, we'll come on to you now. Who's been your most improved player of the season? Another mention has been Anthony Nash has mentioned. Anthony Patterson has been another mention on the chat about Lyndon Gooch as well. But who would you give this award to?
Yeah, well, I think the obvious choice would be Trey Hume. I think Terry's touched on it pretty well. Someone that was on the fringes, who actually some players I think have benefited from the injury crisis, and I think we are short at the back. And I think someone like Trey Hume has got into the side, and he's not going to shift now. Do you know what I mean? He's made the position his own. I think he's good on the ball. He's going to get better and better all the time. Popped up with a few goals, and has he got a couple of assists maybe along the way? I might not. Somebody might put me right on that, but I seem to think he's been involved in the final third. Probably needs to improve his defensive side of the game, but that'll come with experience, won't it? You know what I mean? You certain things you can pick up along the way, the dark arts of defending and, learning how to battle against players, coming up against them in a one-on-one. So I would probably give it to him, but just to be different and say something a little bit different, I would say Pierre-Emerick second half of the season. I think he was excellent because early days, let's be honest, people wrote him off. People were actually laughing at him a bit at Norwich. When he went to play at Norwich, people were saying we might as well say, get rid of him. You know what I mean? You might as well not.
The penalty against Hull as well.
What's that? Sorry?
The penalty he gave away against Hull City, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And people were saying, that's it. There's no chance of him getting involved. But he's actually won people around. I saw something in him in early days. He did look off the pace, but I thought he looked like it was more match fitness that game. And towards the end of the season, he was really coming on strong. I think one or two have mentioned it on the comments and about him, how athletic he is, how good he is at bringing the ball up the pitch, winning tackles. He's got an attribute that we haven't got in the team, which is physicality. So he brings that as well, and he's probably better on the ball than we first give him credit for as well. He's actually not bad on the ball. We talk about the physical side of his game, but technically he improved that as well towards the end of the season. I noticed his decision making when he was on the ball was a lot better. He didn't give it away as much. So special mention for Pierre-Emerick as well, because I thought he was excellent towards the second half of the season. And really, it's a shame the season finished when it did, because I think he would have just got better and better the more he played. He gave him another 8, 10, 15 games in this Sunderland team. I think he would have looked like a top player.
Yeah, completely agree. And Pierre-Emerick, it's just brilliant. We've got him tied down. He was someone that was signed permanently. And to think that, like I mentioned with Trey Hume, what sort of player he's going to become next season, it is frightening. I mean, there was some suggestions after that first leg against Luton. He looked like a prime Yaya Toure. But which I completely agree with. Definitely single-handedly the best individual performance I've seen from a player in a Sunderland shirt this season. And Wayne, finally on to you, mate. Most improved player this season.
Like the lads have touched on, Trey Hume will probably again be the obvious candidate. He not only has he been playing in his normal position at right back, but he's also had to fill in at centre half for quite a bit of the second half of the season. He stepped into there, not really put a foot wrong, like you say, apart from the odd, minor error that he's made. But he's only a young boy. But for me, I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go for Luke O'Nien. I just think, when we considering we have 4 years in League One, we were all a bit worried if he could make the step up to the Championship. To be fair, he's had a cracking season. His enthusiasm, his passion. Yes, he's done a few mistakes. He got sent off against Swansea and what have you. But I just think he's been consistently one of our better players every game. When he hasn't played, we've missed him. So I just think and as the season's gone on, he's got better and better until he's probably been one of the first names on the team sheet towards the second half of the season. So for me, I'm going to go for Luke O'Nien. But Trey Hume, he's had a fantastic season as well. I mean, testament to Tony Mowbray. You know, it's probably a prime example of what he's all about in developing young players. You know, Trey Holmes is a prime example of that. But for me, Luke O'Nien.
CONRAD Tank, he agrees with your choice, Wayne, on the live chat. Luke O'Nien. It's funny with Luke O'Nien, you know, when we got promoted, there's even me, I'd hold my hands up. People debated, you know, could he take that level of performances he showed in League One to the Championship? But for me, it's been even better, to be honest. You know, he's adapted to playing, you know, at centre half, left back, right back, even playing as a defensive midfielder on a few occasions when he's been brought on by Tony Mowbray. Luke O'Nien, absolute credit to this football club. I think he will go down, I think, as a club legend in the next few years. He's here for the foreseeable future, mate. You know, Luke O'Nien, a credit to this football club, Mr. Sunderland, as I like to call him, even though he's from quite close to me, Hemel Hempstead down south. But yeah, a fantastic lad. Just proves if you're a Southerner and you move up to Sunderland, you know, a club like Sunderland can get under your skin like Kevin Ball, and that's happened to Luke O'Nien. Next award now. I thought we'd throw best goal of the season onto you lads. Where do you want to start? Feel free to throw in your honourable mentions as well as your winner. I'll start with, it's got to be the Jack Clarke goal, innit? At Reading, I was there that night. Absolutely a joy to see. What frustrated me, I remember when seeing a particular clip when he went up to pick up the trophy. You might as well have given a trophy out to all of the players involved in that goal that made that goal happen. I know Jack Clarke scored it, but what a goal. You know, Paul Merson said on Gillette Soccer Saturday when they reviewed it a few days later, that wins goal of the season already. And yeah, it sat for some baffling reason. It didn't get that in the EFL awards, but yeah, that's my goal of the season. Pleasure to be there that night. Will be a moment that will be with me for the rest of my life, seeing that live. Unbelievable. It just took everyone's breath away that night in the Majeski Stadium. But yeah, Jack, feel free, obviously, like I said, to throw in your mentions there. What's your goal of the season?
There's been quite a few, wasn't there? I'll probably miss a couple off. I think Diallo's against Luton was a spot on goal. The way he hit it, you know, he caught it sweetly. Diallo's against Coventry was a good one. Diallo's against Preston was a good one on the last day of the season to get us into the playoffs. That was a good one. So yeah, I think, like I say, I think I mentioned it earlier. I'm at Diallo, but I've one on his own. I think the standout one would be obviously Jack Clarke way back in September. Looking like a prime Barcelona under Pep Guardiola we played, and it was the amount of people that were involved, the timing of the passes. It worked like clockwork, and then obviously Jack Clarke with the back stick beats the defender and then slots it in. It was one of those goals that any team in the world would be proud to have scored that goal. Yeah, I think you have to give it to that one. But did we score a couple of good ones at Wigan as well? I know I mentioned Diallo's one at Wigan, but did somebody else? Because I seem to remember
left foot that night.
We had 2 or 3 really good goals scored that night. Did Pritchard get one that night? I might be talking absolute rubbish, but I seem to remember a couple
Stuart Sims. Goals. There was one more. I can't remember who got the one after, but yeah, Diallo's. Thank you for mentioning that, Jack. We forgot to mention that Diallo strike at Wigan. What a goal that was! You know, unbelievable. But yeah, your honourable mentions there, I agree with completely. You know, so it's almost like with the goal of the season award for the Championship this season, you might as well pick out every single, probably at least 10 of ours, and use all of ours just for the highlight show reel. They were that good compared to some of the other goals scored in the league this season. Terry, what is your goal of the season, mate? And feel free to throw some honourable mentions as well.
Yeah, well, the goal that you mentioned to do with Clarke, where he scored that goal, that was probably the best team goal, wasn't it? Along with the goal against West Brom, where we had about 14 touches before Serkin scored. So I don't know how on earth, AFL obviously don't know much about football, to be fair, did it? That wasn't goal of the season, team goal of the season, do we say. But I'm going to give my goal of the season to, I think it was equalising goal against Watford. I'm going to say Patrick Roberts, for the simple fact that the season was finished for me. Season was over. That got a breath of fresh air in the rest of the season, got us in the playoffs, almost got us in the playoffs, kept the season going, and I just thought it was a a fantastic stoppage time sort of strike from Patrick Roberts. For me, I give that goal of the season just because I thought that I was down and gone by that. When that went in, it just got us back up again. Happy.
Yeah, a joy. Honourable mentions that have just come to my head. Jack Clark's, remember Bristol City at home? Cut inside, put one in the top corner.
What about that one?
Yeah, a really, really good one, that one. It's been some... Diallo's at home against Birmingham, the winner. That was fantastic to see the footwork he showed in the build-up to that.
I mean, nearly all of Diallo's goals are class, aren't they? Let's face it, nearly all class.
The away game.
Diallo got a good one against Birmingham away as well.
The away game at
Friday night when he put to the left, pinged it in the top corner.
I missed it. I was still drinking my pint.
You're drinking Jack's pint.
Were you there, Jack, that night? Can't remember where I saw it.
No, I didn't go to Birmingham. I was planning on going, and then they changed it to a Friday night. If it would have been the Saturday, I would have gone, and then we scored that worldie and won, and it looked like a great atmosphere. So I was disappointed, but no, I wasn't there. I think I only missed 5 or 6 aways that season, but that was unfortunately one of them.
And also, who can forget also Diallo's rocket of a left foot at Preston, the last game of the season. I think it was up until that point. We knew we'd get the goal eventually, even though Preston gave us a few scares in the first half. For him to do that, I think it was, I can't remember who laid it off to him. I think it was Geldhart, with just that little touch, and it was set up perfectly for him to put it in the top corner. It just looked so easy to the man for him to do that. And for what followed with the free kick against Luton the following week, absolute wonderful, wonderful footballer he is, and with a bright future ahead, like I mentioned before. Other mentions, including, remember Dennis Serkin's header at West Brom, the equaliser, fantastic cross from Gooch on the right hand side. Unbelievable.
That's the bravest goal of the season, that one, I think.
Yeah. And the Millwall as well.
I was going to say Millwall. Yeah. Didn't Shirkin get his head on one at Millwall and he was knocked out on the ground for it?
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Him going for the ball, yeah. Yeah, that was unbelievable. That obviously he's come back. Well, I didn't think, because the injury was very serious, I don't think he'd play again for the rest of the season, to be honest. But he's bounced back, and Dennis Serkin, a fantastic young player to have in this squad, and always puts in 110%. And it's interesting to know, at times where his best position is, because we found him in the box on a few occasions, finishing good chances like that and scoring goals with such ease. Dennis Serkin, fantastic player to have at this club. Moving on now, before we get carried away, we could talk about that particular award all evening. I think I forgot about a few. I think the goals down at some of them down at QPR we scored were brilliant team goals that night. But swiftly moving on, we'll go to, what would you say your funniest moment of the season is? Terry, you wanted him.
Yeah, it's Wayne done his goal of the season.
Not yet.
Have you not done? I'm so sorry, Wayne, mate. We're getting carried away, but that's definitely been the most outstanding award to mention so far.
We've probably touched on most of them anyway, but like I say, I watched that video earlier on there of all our goals this season, and a couple that we haven't mentioned was probably team goals again. Jack Clark's, I think it was at Hull at home. That was a team goal. I think was it 4-3 when we went 4-3 up. That was a great team goal. Pritchard's goal, Huddersfield away, that was another good team goal, went from back to front. But for me, Terry beat me to it. For me, Roberts, just for the sheer importance of it and the time it was, fantastic strike, kept our season alive at the time. So for me, Roberts was the goal of the season. Under pressure, right in the top corner, fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic that goal was, and it was just proved to be a valuable point going into the final game of the season against Preston, wasn't it? On the live chat, a few ones to kick us off with funniest moment of the season. 5-1 free edge, Luke O'Nine's kiss. I think he's referring to the smooch he gave Josh Sargent at Norwich away that day. He's also mentioned, would you say a funny moment for me, a heartbreaking moment? Chris Rigg, his disallowed goal away at Fulham in the FA Cup. It would have been, I think, the youngest scorer ever in an FA Cup tie if that was allowed that day, but it just wasn't to be. But yeah, since I sadly disregarded you before on the last award, Wayne, we'll start with you, mate. Funniest moment of this season.
Funniest one for me, again, you could have, this could be the Luke 09 show, but for me, Luke 09's piggyback. I think it might have, was it Alex Scott against, was it Bristol City, the game? I just remember the piggyback when he's running back the halfway line, he ran past him and he's jumped on his butt. I've never seen anything like it. Absolutely hilarious, and he picked up a booting for it, but it's just typical of Luke 09, and he's a typical shithouse, if you like. He does them sort of tactics that, like I said, the case at Norwich as well. It's just he's just class, and he's just absolutely fantastic. Just for me, the funniest moment will have been that piggyback. I've never seen nothing like it. I don't know whether you've seen the competition what he ran online a week after that. I think he gave it a shirt away or something, didn't he, for the funniest kind of meme? And somebody had put the Grand National and then riding up the Grand National straight. It was absolutely hilarious. So for me, Luke 09.
Yeah, I know. You could also talk about. I'd throw this out there now. That is my funniest moment of the season. To be fair, that piggyback ride he gave the Bristol City player that day. But other Luke 09 mentions, I think the second goal we scored away at Huddersfield on that wet and rainy midweek game. I think it was November, where I think he almost slid off the pitch in his goal celebration, celebrating with Ahmad. That was absolutely hilarious. Obviously, the Josh Sargent kiss as well, as was mentioned in the chat. Jack, we'll come to you, mate. Is Jack on mute?
Yes.
He's off mute now. There we go. Yeah, funniest moment of the season, mate.
Well, it was a question really that was asked of our manager, the man who hasn't really been mentioned much so far, Tony Mowbray. I forgot which game it was. It was a couple of months ago, earlier in the season, maybe February time or something like that. And it was an important meeting over like important game. And the first question he got asked just made us laugh. It was what's your opinion on Jaffa cakes, Tony? And it was just like you were expecting like something like a really important question to talk about team news, and then he came up with some answer about like his description of what the best chocolate biscuits were, and he went into great detail. And I know it was light-hearted. You could say it's unprofessional him talking about that sort of thing if you want to be boring and say you shouldn't be talking about that sort of stuff. He's a manager, you should be talking about tactics and things like that. But it just made me laugh, and I thought it was a symbol of a team that is really enjoying the football, a manager that's enjoying the season. And it was a light-hearted moment. It was something that made me laugh. First question to be asked in the press conference: "What's your opinion on chocolate cakes?" And I wasn't expecting it or something. I just wasn't expecting something like, "Oh, what's the injury news?" or "How's the mood in the camp, Tony?" or something like that. And I think he went under a good 5-minute discussion over what the best chocolate biscuits were. And I just thought it was a lighter moment. It was a bit of fun.
Yeah, I think there was, before we played Borough at home live on Sky, I think David Craig, the Sky Sports interview, I think he asked him to draw out a chocolate from the box, and instead of guessing what it was meant to be, he just unwrapped it and ate it straight away. That's Tony for you in a heartbeat. Yeah, Terry, finally onto you, mate, for this award. Funniest moment of the season, and don't forget, obviously, to throw in your honourable mentions before choosing your award as well.
Right, we've gone over them all, haven't we? Really, there's not really many funny moments apart from Luke 09 and the Jabbercate situation. So what can I say? I personally, I don't know. I say the piggyback was mine. It's my favourite as well. It was just something that you would never expect it at all, and it was just bizarre at the time. He needs to be careful going forward next season, because he could get sent off for some of his funny moments. But then it won't be so funny, will it? But I'll give it a Luke 09.
What about him pulling his hamstring in the celebrations a couple of weeks ago? That was
oh, yeah. I thought of one. Do you remember? I think it was Bristol City, the first away game. I think Stewart got the winner. And then I think because the pressure on the advertising hoardings was so much, my fans just fell down.
Yeah.
And
Another good one was during the playoff game, that fan that ran on the pitch. I don't know who it was, but I'm sure one of our staff who ran outside of the tunnel and tried to a Kevin Paul tackle on him. That was quite funny. That was Tony Mowbray at first.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, Jack. We should just put this out there now. We don't condone that sort of behaviour. By the way, on SAFC Fan TV. Deadly serious, by the way. Do not run on the pitch. It's not a good idea. Don't do it. You will be next. On to
Here's the one for you. What happened to that steward? Kicked him in the shin. He fell over and broke his neck.
Oh yeah, jeez.
I don't get how angry that steward was. He wanted to give him a good kicking, didn't he? I mean,
yeah.
Like I say, for me, he was just having a bit of a laugh when he let him calm down, slide on his feet, and get him off the pitch.
I thought Brian Clough would do to a fan
was a bit harsh
in the 70s.
The steward was a bit harsh.
Yeah. Before we go on to probably my favourite award of the night, performance of the season, a glance on the live chat. It was back onto the goal debate, 5-1-3 edge. I like Benetti's equalising goal away at Watford. I was there that day, absolutely limbsing me away in the Bristolian Mackem. Pritchard had the most intelligent goal of the season. Trying to think which one that was.
Preston when he took it back in the corner, was it?
Last day, yeah, fantastic. Just cut inside, did that little shimmy and put it in the far. Yeah, gave the keeper no chance. David Harris, probably the comment of the night on the live chat. Funniest moment: Alex Neil going to Stoke and Stoke finishing 16th. Sorry, Alex, mate. It is what it is. To be fair, 5-1-3 edge raised a good point. Referring if Neil was still in charge, our youngsters wouldn't have been given many chances as they got under Tony Mowbray. Sorry, couldn't get my words out. I'm glad he went to Stoke. So, guys, performance of the season. So many to pick from in terms of how good it was on an attacking point of view. You could pick out the one at Preston, the one at Reading. Even some of the games we had to fight back from West Brom, Watford away. That was a good point, a valuable point against the side who'd just come down from the Premier League at the start of the season. Norwich away, a good defensive performance on a tactical point of view. Sat back deep but caught them on the break with Abdullah Barr's goal. But obviously, I'll throw it on to you guys. Terry, we'll start with you, mate.
Two standout ones that I really enjoyed. I'll put runner-up away to West Brom, because again, if we'd lost that game, the season would have been finished for me. And the way we came back and just completely dominated the second half and then a second brace, I was absolutely over the moon with that result. But I'm going to give it to our home form has been pretty shocking for most of the season. We've got to really improve our home form next season, and there's been some hard watches at the Stadium of Light. But I'll put the last home game of the season against Luton. I really enjoyed that comeback. I really enjoyed the second half, and I thought Luton were absolutely shitting themselves in the second half. Absolutely shitting themselves. I thought the performance was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. A Sunderland home game that will stay with me forever. Jack, on to you, mate. Don't forget, also, feel free to throw out your honourable mentions as well.
Yeah, I'm going to pick one that might have gone under the radar a little bit. It's great talking about wins and everything, but I love when you're up against it, backs to the wall, and you grind out a result. So I'm going to go Burnley away. I thought we went to Burnley, who were absolutely flying by a mile, the best team in the league. They were a win or two away from clinching promotion. I don't know if they'd beaten us, they might have got promotion. I don't know. Somebody might put me right on that on the chat. But we went there, and I don't think many teams will restrict Burnley. Would have restricted Burnley to that many chances all season. I think we barely had any chances. We could have actually nicked it towards the end. I think we hit the bar towards the end. We could have nicked it. And I just thought it was really good. We went there, young team, not great defensively, and we put a real shift in. We were disciplined, organised, and came away with a very creditable 0-0 draw. So I think moments like that, I mean, obviously the big wins and the massive goals that we've talked about and the excellent technique on the goals are always going to stay with you. But I thought that was one really, really good all-round team performance. To a man, we put a shift in and we got a thoroughly deserved point.
Yeah, completely agree with that one. Another similar performance, as I mentioned, was Norwich away as well. Same sort of tactics applied, but we came out with the win that day. A terrific away performance. Wayne, on to you, mate. Performance of the season.
Well, I've picked out three. So I've gone obviously for the Reading away. It was a fantastic game. I think we just lost Ross Stewart, hadn't we, the couple of games before. Then we lost Ellis Sims, didn't we, in that game? And then to go on and win 3-0, I think Robert scored 2, didn't he? Then obviously the team goal from Clark. So a team performance, the Reading one for me stood out. So that was in third. I've gone for Preston away on the final day. A game that we needed to win. Fantastic performance when the pressure was on. But for me, the West Brom game, for me, away at 2-1, we went there with a depleted squad. Like Terry's just been saying, the season was finished if we got beat. we went 1-0 down to a dodgy penalty, and then our comeback second half with Dennis Certain, absolutely fantastic, I say, with a depleted squad, and it again kept our season going. We went there not expecting to get a thing, and we all thought our season was going to be over after that game, but credit to the lads, went there, great shift, great comeback, and a great 3 points. So West Brom away would be my standout performance.
And you know what, Wayne? I'm agreeing with you, mate. There was something about the West Brom performance that day, coming from a goal down, which I would say, for me, best also away atmosphere of the season. Terrific at the Hawthorns that day. Dennis Serkin, you know, with his 2 finishes, the header was spectacular, but the winning goal in the build-up to it, Pritchard coming off the bench playing a big part, you know, an absolute joy. And, you know, West Brom side who I don't think had lost the home game at that point. I think it was like they last lost the home game in October. And for us to go there and put in a performance like that, which kept the promotion dream alive going into the last 2 games, was wonderful. You know,
our record down there was terrible as well. Our record down there wasn't it before we went there? So
yeah, we'd not won there since West Brom's manager at the time was Tony Mowbray, and we had Keane back in 2007. Yeah, so yeah, wonderful memory, an away day that will stay with me forever, and what a weekend as well that was for me and the boys that went up there. This season, you know, it's emotional thinking about it. You know, a wonderful, truly wonderful season, great memories, great goals, fantastic players, and this is a squad that, you know, going into the start of next season with what we can add to it as well, you know, is going places. This club, everyone, is back. The fans have got this club back. The passion has been restored at Sunderland AFC. And yeah, we wish you all the best. Thank you to everyone who's commented on the live chat tonight. The likes of who's just joined in now: Ben Allison, Mick Griffiths, Conrad Tank, the Bristolian, Mackham, 513 Edge. Yeah, thank you for your comments tonight, and also all season as well. It's been a truly tremendous season. Thank you to everyone that's also liked, shared, and also subscribe to our channel, SAFC Fan TV. If you're still watching, feel free to obviously give us a thumbs up. Please give us a thumbs up as well. Yeah, you've been a joy. You know, tuning into this channel, you know, it's been a pleasure to talk about the fantastic team that we've got on the pitch, and we're Sunderland till we die. Keep the faith, roll on next season. Guys, if you'd like to say a farewell, starting with you, Jack.
Yeah, just the thanks for everyone for watching over the season. You know, we love talking about Sunderland, the lads, and last Emma that does it, but we wouldn't have a show without people watching it. So thanks for watching. Obviously, thanks for liking and subscribing, and see you all next season, lads and lasses.
Terry, over to you, mate.
Yeah, everybody, enjoy your few months away from football, recuperate, and sort of get yourself ready for next season. Another roller coaster season, I would think, with the new owners and Speakman and hopefully Tony Mowbray in charge next season. So enjoy your little holiday away from football. Take care. God bless me. God go with you.
And Wayne, over to you, son.
Yeah, just to echo what lads have been saying, thanks very much for everybody who's watched the channel, subscribed and liked, you know, all the videos. Obviously, it's my first season on the show as well. Loved every minute. The crack with all the lads and lasses is absolutely fantastic. Great seeing the comments as well. So, just look forward to next season. Great first season for me. But thanks everybody. It's greatly appreciate. The channel wouldn't be anything without you. So keep tuning in.
And guys, as I always say, keep the faith, and we'll be back over the summer at some point previewing the 2023-24 season for Sunderland AFC. But thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure all season. Thank you to everyone that subscribed, like I said. Also thank you to all the comments you've put in this season as well. Keep the faith. Have a great time off over the summer, and we'll see you next season.